a match, the other person could be more physically have more physical acumen, but the other guy, if he guy or gal, if they have the proper mindset, right, they will win every single time. And so, folks, we can't stress this enough, because everybody, again, is into all this. I want this tool and this trick and this technique and this, that. But if you don't get the mind right and constantly work on the mind, and, you know, and you all see Garrett and I, you listen to us talking and so forth, you're like, oh, it sounds great. But what you don't know is we've studied, there's hours and hours and hours. I've got some trainings I've listened to 100 times, just over and over. I've got books that I've read 100 times or more. And last illustration, to turn it back to you, I was meeting with a multi-billionaire. He flew my wife and I out to see if we work with his company. And so I asked, I said, hey, I deal a lot and I talk about the millionaire mind. I said, I got a question. What's the difference between a millionaire mind versus a billionaire mind? I said, because to go to that level. And so he said, wow, nobody's ever asked me that. He said, but I can tell you it's a totally different mindset. See, everybody's interested in skill set, but write this down. Your skill set will never exceed your mindset. Ooh. Jeez. And so here's what he told me. He said, like, for instance, he said, I do know one thing. And he said, the book Think and Grow Rich. He said, I read that book 80 times and I reached millionaire status. But he said, between millionaire and billionaire status, I read it another 320 times. I was like, what?
That's incredible.
I was like, wait a minute, are you serious? He said, man, almost every day of my life I'm in that book. He said, man, and I just keep going back over and over and over and over and over again. So he said, but nobody's ever asked me that question. But he said, if I had to answer it, that's what I would say. And so that, my friend, means this right here is so, so important.
I love that, man, because that's the thing, you know, and I even sometimes get questions and comments on my videos, and I can see where the focus is with you know, my audience. And it's a lot of, you know, the how-to, and it's a lot of the actions. But like you've said multiple times, if you're not doing the action with the right intentions and the right beliefs, you're not going to really create the results you want. And can you touch, this is what kind of, when you were talking as well, this kind of stuck out to me on the repetition. Why it's important, you know, because so many people, they're constantly, you know, we call it shiny ball syndrome, right? They're going from one thing to the next, and they're always searching outside themselves for that secret.
Right.
When really, would you say it's more about just the repetition, you know, finding something, a mentor or information, and then going back through it over and over and over? Can you kind of touch on that? Why it's important to kind of focus?
Wow, that's good, man. Yeah. So the very first book I ever wrote was Your Breakthrough is Guaranteed. 7 Simple Steps to Your Success. And there's a picture of me breaking bricks. And on the bricks, I've got things written like fear, procrastination, doubt, and all these kind of things. Well, I give in this my 7-step breakthrough formula. And number 6 just happens to be follow through. Follow through, right? And that's the problem, that most people, they don't have that follow through. And so, yeah, so here's what we would say in the martial arts: don't fear the man that can do 10,000 kicks. Now, there's not that many, but just I'm giving an illustration. Sure. Rather fear the man who's done one kick 10,000 times. See, here's what happens in the martial arts. We had to do stuff over, and a Japanese word for teacher is sensei. That means teacher, instructor. And I remember I'd say, sensei, I already know this. I got it. They said, no, you don't. I said, no, I can do it with my eyes closed. He said, no, you still don't know it good enough yet. I said, no, serious. He said, no, you don't. I said, okay, sir. And he said, listen, you got to do it so much till it literally becomes part of you, till it becomes part of your subconscious, that when you're not even thinking. And so as a matter of fact, we like different things. Like one of the things that, like, I was trying to show off a little bit when I was in college. Forgive me. Yeah. But anyway, and I had Myron Golden, had him. He was on the back. And so I called myself trying to show off. I was on a Kawasaki 900 double over camshaft. Like what was I thinking? And I gunned it and not realizing there was stones underneath it. And it threw us both right over the bike. Right. And Myron, bless his heart, he said he's still got, we talked the other day, he's got scars to still on his elbows, you know, where he landed. And everybody said, how'd you do that? I was like, do what? What are you talking about? They said, man, when the bike said you flip right over, you land on your feet. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm like, I didn't even think, it was instinct. right?
Yes.
Because we've done it over and over and over and over and over and over again. So I put on Facebook the other day, a lot of people are addicted to learning, but they seem to be allergic to application.
Mm,
Oh, let me say it
mm.
again. I said people seem to be addicted to learning, but they're allergic to application. And you got to have the application part. But again, people often think, well, because they've done it a couple times. No, you have to over and over and over and over again. You have to have that follow through. So when you have the right mindset, but with the right consistency, right? Was and I talk about here in the book, Calvin Coolidge. He said, nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. He said, talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination are almost omnipotent. See, that man or woman that won't be whipped, they can't be whipped. So it was Benjamin Disraeli that said, nothing can resist the human will, which will stake even its existence on the extent of its purpose. And so, folks, you got to, it's not just getting started, it's continuing on, and you got to see it through the end. And so in my breakthrough training, by the way, which the whole name Dr. Breakthrough, can I explain real quick? Because a lot of times people.
Well, it's funny. It's funny. And I've never heard this story. And I was going to ask you at some point to please, because I love the name. I love it. There's a ring to it. But if you could please explain, how did you get Dr. Breakthrough? How did you get that name?
Yes. So about 20 years ago, I was speaking, Willie Jolly and I were speaking at Howard University. And so he said, Doc, he said, man, you know, it's like almost every time I talk to you, like he had another breakthrough. He said, man, you are like you explain breakthrough to anybody I've ever seen. He said, when you speak to audiences, and he said, then the way you demonstrate it, right? He said, and then you like expect it. And it's like these people get, he said, so branding is everything. So he said, I know Dr. Stanton, you have a doctor of divinity and a PhD in martial arts and a few credits away from doctor of naturopathy. But I think your branding should be Dr. Breakthrough. Like, doctor, he said, you know, like a person has a problem, they go to a doctor and the doctor writes a prescription. When somebody needs a breakthrough, you're the guy with the prescription. Now I looked at him and I said, now, those are very kind words. I thank you. I'm not sure that's all the way true, but I promise you one thing. I'll live the rest of my life to make sure it is. And so it stuck. You know, now we'll maybe another time we'll talk about it, but at the time when he said that, and here's where mindset's so important. At the time that he said that, I had just went through a situation where I had all my eggs in one basket and that basket crashed. And you can imagine at that time I was homeless. Now, thank God I had a friend that had a place let me stay at, had a trailer let me stay at, but I was not just homeless, I was phoneless. Now, obviously today phones mean a whole lot more than back then, but still, you know, like, so homeless is bad, but phoneless is bad. So I tell people I was homeless and phoneless, but thank God I wasn't faithless. Come on, somebody. And as a matter of fact, one lady told me, she said, when anybody gets this book on Breakthrough Book, tell them to start off at page 80. And I was like, page 80? She said, that's the best page in the whole book. And I'm thinking, so I real quick, I was reading through it and I was telling a little bit of the story of this story. And so what had happened, though, was right during that time, that's when I'm speaking at this, I get to speak at this event, which thank God somebody let me use their car, right? And they let their little thing, they let me use, there's a little computer there, and so they were able to email me. That's the only way I found out. I didn't have a phone. See, I'm telling y'all stuff because I want you to see what, and so this is one of the lowest points in my life. And all of a sudden, here comes a speaking engagement. Okay, yes, wow. I finally, right? And this guy is looking at me, calling out Dr. Breakthrough. You're the guy with a, and at the time, I'm thinking like, he don't even know it. I need all kind of breakthroughs myself, right? But guess what? I didn't reject it. And so many times when people try to compliment us, we, you know, Garrett, you know what? Here's one of the biggest breakthroughs I've had. People would compliment me, and I would like, no, trying to call myself being humble. And then people would criticize me, and then I would embrace it. And then I'd find myself discouraged. And one time I was praying like, Lord, I understand. Why am I just, he said, because you take the criticism, and he said, I touch people's heart. That's a gift from me that they're complimenting you, and you reject it. I was like, ooh. I didn't hear audible voice, but in my spirit, right? I was like, wow. So from now on, I say, I take compliments. And by the way, let me help you if you have a problem taking compliments. Learn to say to people, like I was speaking on yesterday on this this interview thing, and the guy, he's like, man, he's like, you're the best speaker I ever heard in my life. I said, well, I appreciate it. I said, and by the way, if you can spot it, it's because you got it. So you got to be good at speaking to know that I'm good, right? So you see what I did? I accept it, and then I give him some, right? And
Exactly.
but you got to learn to accept that. But here's what I'm saying: when he said that, and now, so here's what happens. A guy, he's so my buddy lets me. He has a little phone. He put a little phone in the trailer that I can use. I was like, wow. And so this guy, I called this guy. He says, man, I've been trying to get a hold of you. I didn't tell him my story. Yeah, you don't need to know. You don't need to know story. So he said, yeah, I got this company. They want you to speak. I said, I'll take it. He said, I didn't even tell you the particular. I said, I'll take it. He said, well,
Hey.
and so he said, well, they want to send you on the tour. And I said, how soon? You understand what I'm saying? He had no idea. And here I am praying and thinking like, but I started visualizing, okay, people calling me. I started visualizing, I'm getting back on my feet. Because one of my mentors, William E. Bailey, who had a company grossing $64 million a month back in the 70s, no email, no fax machine, none of that. I'd ask him one time, hey, Mr. Bailey, what's the worst day of your life? He said, nobody ever asked me that before. I said, man, I know how to handle the good ones. What I need to know how to handle the bad ones. He said, well, it's the day I lost 12 million. I was like, you had 12 to lose? And here's what he said. It changed my life, Garrett. He said, here's what I said to myself. If I did it before, I can do it again. But this time, I'll do it faster and easier because I'm older and wiser. And now I have the experience because the first time I did it, I'd never done it before. But now that I've done it, I know I can do it. But I was like, whoa.